I know you love earning travel rewards and cash back, and that's why you're going to love Rakuten. With Rakuten, you can earn cash back on everything you need to book your dream trip, hotels, flights, rental cars, experiences, and more, while still booking through your favorite travel sites. And don't worry, cash back can be earned on top of earning the credit card points and the hotel and airline loyalty points that matter most to you, depending on how you make your booking. Plus, with Rakuten, you can also earn cash back on groceries and other purchases like electronics, pet supplies, and more. And the best part, you can join today for free and start earning cash back on top of your travel rewards. Go to Rakuten.com or get the app. That's Rakuten, Rakuten. Rakuten, the most rewarding way to shop.
This episode is brought to you by TaxAct. Don't do your taxes alone. Join TaxAct's National Admin Night. Admin nights are social gatherings for getting through your to-do list. So get ready for a night of fun, finding deductions, and filing taxes with TaxAct, where you can file your federal and state return for just $49 through April 8. Let's get together and get them over with. Visit taxact.com/admin-night for details.
This episode is brought to you by Fandango. People say fans are too distracted these days, but the truth is, when a great movie hits the screen, you show up, you stay glued, invested, part of the story. And without fans like you, there'd be no cinema magic, no shared moments. So head to Fandango.com to get tickets, stream, or rent or buy top movies and series. Fandango loves fans.
You're listening to the Zero to Travel podcast, where we explore exciting travel-based work, lifestyle, and business opportunities, helping you to achieve your wildest travel dreams. And now your host, world wanderer and travel junkie, Jason Moore.
Hey, it's Jason here with ZeroToTravel.com. Welcome to the show. Thanks for hanging out, letting me bring a little travel into your ears today. This is the show to help you travel the world on your terms, to fill your life with as much travel as you desire, no matter what your situation or experience. Today's episode you're going to hear, pulled this one out from the archives because I do think it's timeless, and the story you're about to hear, it's really just as powerful now as it was when it was first aired. You're going to meet Annette and Daniel Fortner. They're a couple who sold everything they owned, paid off $70,000 in debt, and took off to travel the world full time during COVID, nonetheless. But it's not just your typical sort of we quit our jobs to travel story. Their journey started from a difficult place, burnout, pressure, some mental health struggles. And there are a lot of takeaways in this one that I think you can implement into your own life. They share how they turned a breaking point, hitting rock bottom, into a catalyst for building a completely new life through travel. What it really takes financially, emotionally, and logistically to leave everything behind and go on a long-term trip. Why traveling as a couple can be both wildly rewarding and challenging at the same time. And the rules they created to make it work. And so much more. With that said, I do want to give a bit of a trigger warning here. There is a lot of talk about depression, suicidal thoughts, and so on. So just a little warning there. Anyway, whether you're dreaming of full-time travel, trying to figure out what to do next if you're feeling burnt out, or you just want to hear an honest story about how somebody took chances and took practical steps and emotional steps to live a different kind of life. I know you'll enjoy this one. One last reminder, ZeroToTravel.com/newsletter is where we send out the free newsletter. You can sign up over there to join the community. Stick around on the back end of this conversation. I'm going to leave you with one takeaway that is something you can do for yourself, whether you're traveling or not, that can be super helpful when you're trying to figure certain things out. A bit of a mindset, really, an approach, and this has been something that's been helpful to me personally, so I thought I would share that on the back end. For now, please enjoy my conversation with Annette and Daniel, and I will see you on the other side, my friend. Cheers. Can desperation and depression lead to selling all of your possessions and traveling the world? That is exactly what happened to my guest today, who is here to share her story, and I should say their story. I didn't know Daniel would be joining us as well. They're going to share some lessons learned along with some advice to help you travel more. And you can check out their work at chaseforadventure.com. Annette and Daniel Fortner, welcome to the Zero to Travel podcast, my friends.
Thank you so much for having us, Jason. It's honestly crazy to be here. It's an absolute pleasure to be talking to you today.
Well, it's exciting to see you guys. And where are you, just so we can get a little bit of, mentally take us where you are, or auditorially, I guess.
Yeah. So we are in a beautiful remote island in Thailand called Koh Chang. It's actually in between the coast of Thailand and Cambodia. And it's crazy. The pandemic kind of took us for a loop. We were definitely planning on doing these really cool adventures this year. And at the very last minute, when our plans were originally to go home and visit our family that we hadn't seen in a while, we got offered to foster 10 dogs in Thailand. And they're like, you'll get a place to live and you'll get a stipend and good internet and 10 fuzzy pups. And now we're here.
And I think that was 3 days before we were supposed to be. Not 3 days before we were supposed to be flying home. 3 days before we came to Thailand, the decision was made to do this. And so they organized a house, they organized pickup with all the dogs, everything in maybe a day and a half.
Yeah.
It was crazy.
Where did you find that gig?
So we met a girl at a bar maybe about 8 months ago in a place called Railay, which is in the south of Thailand in the Krabi province. It's a beautiful little strip of land. It's ridiculous cliff sides. But we were just at a bar having a beer, and some girl with dreads sat down next to us, and we just struck a conversation, and now we're here.
And the rest is history. And actually, we were doing tours through Thailand because with Chase for Adventure, we take our YouTube audience and show them all the different places around the world that we really enjoy. And anyway, we had a trip planned for Thailand in March. And she operates a dog rescue here in Thailand where she just looks for tourists who don't mind tacking on a pup to their ticket. And then they're able to travel with that person to their final destination, people adopting them. So if you fall in love with a dog in Thailand, you can actually take that pup home if you live in the Western world.
Cool. What's the name of that organization?
Action for Dogs.
Okay, cool. So if anybody's in Thailand and wants to take a dog with them to get adopted, there you go. Action for Dogs.
Yeah.
That's exactly it.
And so it really was a really sweet gig.
I have to ask you a bit about Koh Chang because I was there in like 1998 and there wasn't much going on. I remember it was one of the highlights of my trip to Thailand. I spent about a month in Thailand just because like I stayed in the straw hut for like $5 a night, and all I did was walk to like the one restaurant that there was there. And that was like the big event of the day. And the rest of the time, it was just kind of like hanging around the beach and stuff. I don't think there was no internet or anything. It was just, reading the paper, reading whatever magazines were laying around, and a few places to stay. Not much, which was perfect. What is it like now? This is a selfish question, but I need to know what Koh Chang's like now.
So honestly, Koh Chang probably hasn't changed a whole lot. Outside of the internet is the best we've ever had in the entire world. We're getting 2 gigabytes of upload and download speeds in our house. And we live in the middle of the jungle with a creek behind our house, right around the corner from a waterfall. But still, it's one road that goes around the entire perimeter of the island. And, there's a big C, which is like our version of Walmart, a macro, and some restaurants. And that's about it. So if you're coming to Koh Chang, you're really just bumming on a beach or going on the beautiful hiking trails and things like that.
I will say it's a lot more developed than just a straw hut. They still have those different parts of the island, but you have to go to like Dan Mai or Bang Bao, and then that's where it's more rural because you're getting to like the farthest reaches of the island. But if you stay on the main part where the 2 ferry ports are and where a lot of the like tourist spots and the bars and the restaurants, it's a full grown city just off one main road. Okay,
cool. Well, thanks. Yeah, it was just taking me back there mentally for a second. So I wanted to learn a little bit more about that. And, it's funny, you never know where you're going to end up when you take off for a trip like this. I'm sure you guys didn't know you'd be taking care of 10 dogs in the middle of the jungle on Koh Chang. This is another example for people listening. They're like, well, what if, I want to keep traveling or I can't figure it out? You'll probably sit down next to somebody at a bar who will help you figure out the next thing, right? It's just another sort of,
right?
I think people that are listening to the show have heard plenty of examples of how, like, once you get out there, things can kind of open up. But before you guys got out there, it sounds pretty intense. I mean, Annette, I got your email, and I'll just read you a snippet. It said, 2 years ago, after working a dreadful, high-paying 9-to-5 job, that drove me to the brink of suicide. My husband and I decided to sell all of our stuff and travel the world. We literally moved into my in-laws' house, sold everything we owned, including our cars, and paid off $70,000 worth of debt. And then you guys were working, you said 70 hours a week for 8 months, trying to save up 15 grand to make your travel dreams come true. So yeah, well, I wanted to hear about the job first. I mean, what were you doing?
So I did pursue legal situations with the job, so I am not allowed to disclose any information about the role that I held there.
Okay.
I can tell you about it, how it made me feel, and that it paid well. That's about all I could say.
Okay. Well, let's talk about that. How were you feeling?
Okay, so honestly, I had been working, 50 hours a week at this job, feeling totally unappreciated, unsatisfied. My family was going through their separation. My parents separated. And even though I was an adult and it shouldn't have affected me, it really did for a lot of reasons. And it just made me realize, like, when I was going into work and I'm crying every single day before going to work and having to step away from what I'm doing so that I could go and cry in the bathroom, thinking, I have a bachelor's degree from a good university. This is not what my life was supposed to be like. People told me that, if I did everything right, I graduated high school, got the good grades, got the 9-to-5 job, got paid well, had a house, that I would be happy. And to be honest, I just wasn't. And it got to a point where I just didn't want to live. And so Daniel had gone on a work trip and I was alone by myself at home. And I'm there sitting on the couch thinking, okay, well, what is the least messy way that I could do this? Like, how can I make my death easy for Daniel to come home to? Which, after even realizing that I was having those thoughts as I'm sitting on the couch, I did call the suicide hotline, and I'm really glad that I did. But soon after that, I realized that I had hit rock bottom and that I couldn't continue living my life how I was living it. I wasn't happy and I wasn't satisfied. And if I was willing to hurt myself more than anybody else in the world was willing to hurt me, I was going to have to change something. I was going to have to fight for my own life. And so that was when I first brought it up to Daniel. And I was like, Daniel, I really want to travel. We had gone on this amazing study abroad trip in 2015 through Italy, and it was gorgeous. And I felt so free and so happy. And I've always been passionate about languages and other cultures. And I really wanted that back. So I told Daniel, but Daniel wasn't totally sold because obviously he had just gotten like a really nice high paying job himself. And he's like, Annette, I'm not willing to give this up. So then, fast forward several months, Daniel had his own kind of come to moment that he could talk about.
To make a long story short, I was running 2 private emergency rooms and managing all the staff, all the facilities, and just working to the bone. And then I ended up getting forced to resign because I wasn't, quote unquote, working hard enough. And that was pulling 60 plus hours a week, being on call 24 hours a day for an emergency clinic. And you can imagine if they have an emergency, they need something done now. And so...
Wait, tell them about our wedding and the hurricane, because those are my 2 favorite tidbits of this job.
So right before the decision to leave the job, we had our wedding, and our wedding was on a Saturday. I had asked for the Friday off. This is maybe a month and a half beforehand. And my boss told me no.
Which is a rehearsal, a wedding rehearsal. He wasn't allowed.
He said that I needed to be on call for my wedding day, and that I couldn't take the day before off because I had a bunch of family in town and we were doing the rehearsal dinner and getting everything set up.
That's just silly. That's
not.
I don't think that doesn't even sound normal. Like,
no, right?
But it was that same kind of sort of attitude that we were getting from employers that kept telling us, like, A, you're replaceable. B, I don't care about you or your life or your time or the things that are important to you.
Yeah. And so at that point, Annette and I were like, wow, what are we going to do? I went to her and I was like, okay, that crazy idea you've been talking about? I'm in, let's do this.
And this was the day after our wedding. We looked at each other and we were watching, like, I don't know, some blogger, and they said, oh, well, I left with $5,000. And I'm like, Daniel Allen, if this kid did it with $5,000 in his bank account, if we sold all of our stuff right now, we would have just enough. And that's what we did. So literally the day after our wedding, we put our guitars on OfferUp. They went immediately. In like 30 minutes, both Daniel and I sold our guitars, and we're like, nah, that's it. It's meant to be.
We use that as a sign. We were like, it's meant to be.
So we returned all of the gifts that we had registered for that our loved ones bought for us. and sold everything, moved into his parents' house shortly after. It happened so fast.
Wow. I mean, what a great way to kick off your marriage, right?
Right.
I think we did pretty good.
A high five is, that's a great high five moment right there. I love that. Hope we caught that in the mic. All right. Well, I mean, first of all, just going back to what you said, if anybody listening to this ever feels the way Annette did, then please call the suicide prevention hotline and take an action, talk to somebody. I just want to highlight that because that's important. Yeah, I wanted to just ask a little bit about that, like kind of getting the job, thinking, you know, you're going to be happy with the grades in the house and all that stuff. Is that a product of like an expectation that you think society or maybe your family was putting on you? Or was it just kind of self-driven or a combination of those things? What are your thoughts around that? Like, how did you end up in that situation in the first place? Were you trying to meet a certain expectation or be a certain type of person that you weren't?
So my family, I'm first generation American. My family immigrated from Cuba a couple of years before I was born. And I think this is a case for most immigrant parents. You know, they have all of these high expectations because, you know, they grew up in the slums of Cuba. And they're like, you need to be a lawyer or a doctor. You better go and get your degree and make a lot of money and, you know, make a name for yourself, because if not, what did I sacrifice all of this for? So yeah, I definitely think that definitely played a role into that pressure. And also society. I mean, I think everyone, when they're in high school, they're indoctrinated to the thought that if they just go to university and get a stable career in something, that they're going to be able to get a job and they're going to be stable and comfortable, right? That's the word. They're going to be comfortable. And that's what everybody spends their whole life trying to attain. And I have never been a girl about comfort. I've been a girl about freedom and living every single moment presently. I've always been the wild child. I moved out when I was 17 on my own, and I went and studied abroad when I was 19. And I've always just kind of wanted to live life on my own terms. And I think having led a life for so long that wasn't on my terms, I just think it got to me.
I mean, what you just described is, from the conversations that I've had, it can be a common thing with first generation immigrants because it's, like you said, they did so much, sacrificed so much. And then oftentimes it seems to me through conversations that I've had, it just feels like there's the child feels the need to come through. Well, you sacrificed so much, so now I need to come through and meet that expectation. But then that can be hard too, because not to just do that, but if that's not sort of your soul's calling to like go down a particular path, like having a 9-to-5 job or being a doctor or a lawyer, you know, nobody wants to disappoint their parents when all's said and done, right? There's a lot of psychology there, of course. Daniel, when you came home and all this stuff was happening with Annette, like how did you guys, what was your kind of side of it? Like how did you work through it as a couple? This is a pretty extreme scenario, of course, but like I think when couples are working together to like work towards a bigger goal, like selling all your stuff to travel, there's going to be things that need to be worked out. I just kind of wanted to get some advice on, I just wanted to hear a little bit about your side of that story and your advice and how you guys worked through that.
From the beginning, we've always had a relationship that was just open lines of communication. If something is on my mind, I'm going to communicate it in a respectful way. And the same goes for her. So when she started going through a lot of the difficult times with her depression and suicidal ideation, I didn't know the extent of it.
Yeah, you could never know because you can't get in someone's head. You know, it's
exactly, and you only know what they tell you. And so, as much as I love Annette, as I put my arm around her and give her a kiss on the forehead, she wasn't the most forthcoming about it. And so I was there as emotional support. That was really my role in the beginning. And then as things started unfolding and life events started happening around that whole situation, I went off on the work trip, and then I came back. That's when I found out about everything and how she had thought about committing suicide and actually placed a call to suicide hotline. And after that, we didn't make the decision to travel, but we knew something needed to change. And so we started making life steps towards that. We started, I think at that time we had actually started eating healthier. We started exercising more. We started doing our part to see if we could help relieve some of the symptoms while we just figured out life. Because at this point, she's just graduated. I'm still finishing school. We don't know exactly what our career paths are going to take. Hers just took a complete 180 and mine was just taking off the ground, but I was working for that lovely individual of a boss. And so once we started working through that, to be honest, it was pretty smooth sailing because there was nothing more to focus on than learning what we needed to make the travel lifestyle sustainable and save up enough money. I don't really think there was time to think about anything else. She started feeling better and started getting a better grip on depression and things like that. And so that kind of sorted itself out with just us being a support unit.
Well, and to Daniel's point, and to the point of the question, Daniel was just so supportive the entire time. Even when I obviously did tell him, I didn't tell him on the work trip that I was battling the things that I was. But the moment that he found out, I was on suicide watch with my friends when Daniel had to go to work. We had a friend that which is crazy to talk about it now because I'm like a totally different person. And if you've ever seen like any of our videos or a blog, like I've always been a really like positive and bubbly person. And to go from that image that people had of who I was to then suddenly having to have a babysitter so that I don't kill myself was a really humbling sort of moment. And also for Daniel to have really honest conversations with me saying, Annette, it is okay for you to feel this way, but it is not okay for you to just sit here and sulk in it. Yeah, you need to pull yourself out. So let's look for solutions.
Yeah, something needs to change, but you're essentially the only one that can make that decision. I can't sit here as your loving spouse and be like, oh, you're going to feel better.
Right.
So I think, yeah, just working through that. And then once we started working 60, 70 hours a week, I had lost my job 8 months before from that boss, and we just hit the ground running. We had a goal, I think out of the $70,000 worth of debt that we had from just living expenses in college, we only had 23,000 of it left.
Yeah,
and so
right
we
before.
finished, right before. And so during that 8 months, we paid off $23,000 of debt and saved up the $15,000.
Actually, tooting our own horn, toot, 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 16,500, which paid for our bonus trip to Japan, which was not in the cards at the time.
Yeah.
We'll get back to the interview in just a moment. I know you love earning travel rewards and cash back, and that's why you're going to love Rakuten. With Rakuten, you can earn cash back on everything you need to book your dream trip, hotels, flights, rental cars, experiences, and more, while still booking through your favorite travel sites. And don't worry, cash back can be earned on top of earning the credit card points and the hotel and airline loyalty points that matter most to you, depending on how you make your booking. Plus, with Rakuten, you can also earn cash back on groceries and other purchases like electronics, pet supplies, and more. And the best part, you can join today for free and start earning cash back on top of your travel rewards. Go to Rakuten.com or get the app. That's Rakuten, Rakuten. Rakuten, the most rewarding way to shop.
Don't let tax refund worries hold you back. File now with TurboTax on Intuit Credit Karma. They'll find every credit and deduction to help you get every refund dollar you deserve, or your money back. Start filing today in the Credit Karma app.
Now, back to the show. Did you guys have any concerns about the idea of travel, the reality of it not meeting the idea of it, the expectation? I do think changing your surroundings obviously makes a huge difference. Like if you think about your physical surroundings, well, how is that not going to impact your life, right? But at the same time, you're taking your physical body and mind with you there, so you're still who you are. You can't run away from your problems.
Run away from your problems. Yeah.
But at the same time, you can't say either, and I think we as travelers know this, that travel or just go, even if you're just moving to another town or whatever, that's not going to impact your daily life. Of course it is. So is any of this stuff like stuff that you guys talked about or worried about or anything? Because like going on the road and living nomadically like you guys are right now, because you have no end destination, right? You're just living on the road. So that's a different way of life, you know? And you don't really know if you're going to like it until you do it. I mean, you can test the waters and everything, but like going for a month and sort of pretending in your mind it's like that is different than actually selling all your stuff and going and not looking
Somebody
back.
from the beginning.
Yeah, you have literally brought up everything that I was just about to say. Because the whole reason we started traveling and got the travel bug was from her study abroad trip to Florence, Italy in the summer of 2015. And I just went and stayed with her, but you have everything planned out. You go with an actual school program and there's not much flexibility, and it's not really the traveler lifestyle. It's you're studying abroad. And so
It's an experience, but a different kind of experience.
yeah, exactly. And so I think coming into this, we really didn't know what to expect. I think for me, the most violently different part was just being able to live on your feet and out of a backpack.
Right.
You can show up to a city one day and not have anything planned and find a place to sleep, and you're going to be fine.
Right. And that's actually something. So I was never personally worried about the travel lifestyle because I don't know, something about like hating your life so much beforehand, like anything else sounds better.
Fuel for
And
the
so
fire.
I was just ready. I was like, give me the boarding passes. I'm ready to walk down the aisle and sit in my uncomfy seat for 27 hours. But it is a huge difference. I mean, people think that, you're just running away from your problems. And I think that we're both testament that sometimes you run right back into your problems because you have all these new distractions, new smells, new things to go and see. But at the end of the day, you also have a heck of a lot of time to yourself without internet connection to just think. And sometimes, you might realize that things that you wanted aren't things that you really want anymore. You realize that you're a different person. And I know that for Daniel, I definitely dealt with the depression beforehand. And by the time I started traveling, I was A-okay and fine. But then Daniel completely was on my end of that.
Yeah, I did the actual complete opposite of her. She experienced it before traveling. And then once traveling happened, she was happy-go-lucky. And as soon as we started traveling, all of my life problems that I guess I had been pushing down for so long and did not realize it just decided to resurface. And so for the first 6 months of our travels, I really had a hard time with my own depression and my will to push forward. I don't want to say I experienced it at the same extreme as her with like suicidal ideation, but being out on the road, doing everything that you want. And I know that sounds silly, but when you're making every single decision and you're having to make hundreds of decisions a day, it really is empowering, but it is really overwhelming. And it really does kind of bring out, at least for me, insecurities. At first, it brought out a lot of my insecurities and a lot of areas in my life that I didn't realize that I wanted to work on and that I needed to work on.
Can you share some examples?
Yeah. So I used to be I am a very happy and outgoing person. I'm very happy and outgoing.
He's actually a sourpuss. He's lying to you. Everybody listening, it's fake news. Daniel's miserable.
Well, I mean, I would say I was very happy-go-lucky, and I obviously wasn't miserable, but I was a big pushover. I would not have a backbone to save my life. And when we started traveling, you're dealing with scams, you're dealing with miscommunications from different languages, you're dealing with a bunch of people who know you're a tourist and know that you don't know their language, so they're going to try and pull one over for you for a few bucks. And I had to really grow in that aspect. And I want to say it really kind of culminated when we went to Chiang Mai, Thailand, and we stayed there for a month. Because I think that was about 8 months into our initial travels. I've been kind of going on a roller coaster of emotions, and then my life purpose hit me. Annette's life purpose, I think, has always been to be some form of traveler and some form of entertainer because she's just this bubbly and loud and so much energy and positive vibes all of the time. And I was not that in Chiang Mai. And so,
but you're better now.
Yeah, absolutely. I've been better now, able to work through it all. I really do think that the biggest thing for me was learning how to stand up for myself and learning how to fight for what I want, because I have a voice. We all have a voice. If you're sitting down listening to this at home, you have a voice. No matter if you feel that that voice is suppressed, you feel that that voice isn't there, it's not as strong as you'd like it to be, but we all just have the ability to make what we want known. And so,
and to change our circumstances. I think that so many people sit there, and this is actually something that really drives me crazy now that I'm better, now that I'm traveling, now that like I know the amount of power that we have over our lives and our circumstances. I find it frustrating when people are complaining about their jobs to me. I don't understand it. We just don't complain about anything anymore, because if we don't like something, we change it. Oh, we don't like the city. Well, we just, hop on a bus and we leave. We don't like this bar. We'll just go to another one. We don't want to travel because we're traveling at a really fast pace and we want to settle down for a month because we're tired. We do that. And it's so hard for us, at least when we go back now, to even have some conversations with our friends that we love and adore, because every time like we go back, they're like complaining about the same thing. And it's like, my friend, the last time I was here 2 years ago, you were complaining about the same thing. Have you thought about changing? It's like, nah, but I'm comfy here. And it's like, okay, well, be comfy.
What you guys were talking about in terms of kind of running into your problems out on the road, so to speak, I think that comes from the space you get when you're traveling, right? Like you actually have mental space. When you're working 60, 70 hours a week and you're kind of you're so busy all the time, it can be a tendency to like not give yourself the space to process and reflect and think about, hey, am I, checking in with yourself, like, hey, am I actually living the life I want to live? Or if I'm not right that second, doesn't mean always that you can change it right the next day. But you can assess and you can make a plan like you guys did. You say, all right, well, we're going to sell our stuff and change it. And then it takes time, and you spent, 8 months working and saving and paying off debt and things like that. But in a day-to-day life, it can be hard to kind of get that space. And I think when you're out on the road, especially, you guys don't have kids or anything, right? Like you're just out on the road as a couple. So you have a lot of time to just think about things, right?
Right. And there's also something that when we first started our YouTube channel, because we really wanted to document this whole journey, we wanted people to know that when they go out and travel, things just fall into place. Yes, you'll have that space and maybe it'll put you in a dark spot, but you'll figure it out. And even if you go out and travel and you fail, quote unquote fail, right? And you decide that this lifestyle isn't for you, you go back home a totally different person, a totally empowered and confident and happier person, because at least now you're aware of the power of making choices. And another thing too, to the people at home who I know if they're listening to this podcast, they're maybe aspiring digital nomads or looking for ways to add a little bit more adventure into their life. When we created our YouTube channel, we wanted to be the chronicles of having a dream and doing whatever it took to attain it. And so a lot of people, I think now see, our YouTube channel, we have, a few thousand subscribers, and they're like, wow, you guys have quote made it or whatever. And it's like, okay, but you can go back 275 videos ago to when we were still at home in Gainesville selling our stuff, knowing absolutely nothing about what we were getting ourselves into, and see that whole journey unfold. Nobody starts anything as an expert. You just need to pick a direction and take steps in it.
Yeah. How much do you think your mindset's changed as you dropped into the pace of traveling and nomad life? I'm not sure if this is true in your case, Danielle, but like I've seen and heard, I've had firsthand experience with people I've traveled with, and also just through the podcasts, people finding a hard time like slowing down to life on the road, like settling into the pace of life on the road, because you don't have necessarily a to-do list. There's always stuff to be doing and decisions to be making, but it's not the same, right? It's a different pace. I'm not sure if any of that was part of the struggle, like kind of like aligning the mindset that you came from, which is like go, all this high pressure job type situation, and how your mind works in that. And like, I do think it takes time to like settle your mind into the pace of like long-term travel. I don't know if that's true for you guys, or I just wonder if you could speak a little bit on that.
Yeah, absolutely. My mindset completely shifted after, because I feel like I really lost direction with traveling. Because when you're working for someone and you're working a 9 to 5, you know exactly what you're supposed to be doing. You have, like you said, you have a to-do list, a go, a hustle. And when you switch out of that, the hustle is even harder on the road, but it's so much more rewarding. And the mindset shift, I really do think, is one of those situations where you leave and you feel the same while you're traveling. But when you go back to a life that hasn't changed in the amount of time that you've been gone, you realize how different you are and how far your mindset has come.
Yeah. I feel like for my mindset from the beginning, when I felt like I had to be so go, 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 because I think that's also something that a lot of people perceive when they're jumping into digital nomad life is that, oh, to be a digital nomad, you have to be jumping on a plane to a new place every single week. You can only spend 3 days in a location. And I don't think that that is necessarily
It's actually
true,
the hardest way to do it.
Right.
You need time to work.
Mentioning.
Yeah.
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 That's exactly. And you have to factor that into your daily life. You can't just be, oh, I'm on a plane every other day, taking a bus here and there, and I'm never connected to internet.
Right.
And that's the reality of being a digital nomad. You need to be able to find a coffee shop, sit down for a few hours, get behind your laptop, work, find that direction and dig in.
Do you like that aspect of it? Or do you guys sometimes wish, I wish we were just traveling, like this working, traveling thing's annoying?
I think Daniel and I have separate answers.
That was a
to
hilarious pause. You guys both cocked your heads to the side, so like you were like symmetrical, and you both had the same exact expression. This open mouth, like it was just a great moment. Anyway,
Well, thanks. When you've been with someone for almost a decade. For me, I think Chase Your Adventure was such a dream come true for me. So even from the beginning, I have always loved the working aspect. As a matter of fact, sometimes it would be the reverse. I would be kind of annoyed because we had to create content for the YouTube channel that would drag me away from my computer. And I know that sounds really backwards, but at the time, I mean, even still now.
I was going to say at the time.
Right. I was so hungry and passionate about wanting to just shake people through our content and let them know, guys, you don't have to be unhappy. You can make your happiness. And so that for me has kept me so hungry for work. I will be on emails at whatever hour, do podcast interviews at whatever hour, because the mission behind Chase Your Adventure keeps me going more than the travel. The travel's a side bonus. It's a thank you that I get to live this lifestyle, but I would be doing the exact same thing that I'm doing if I was somewhere else.
And I think the face that we had made earlier to each other was just because I kind of had the opposite experience. Chase for Adventure started as her passion, and now it is my passion because I'm very, very much enjoying what we're doing and the positive message that we're spreading, the people that we're interacting with. But at first I was like, get me from behind this laptop. I need to go be jumping in a waterfall. I need to be on a motorcycle, riding through mountains. I need to be exploring. And so,
I mean, this brings me to my next question. Going into business with somebody is a whole thing, right? You can't just like just because you guys are together doesn't mean you make good business partners. Like, are you guys working together on this now? Because that's like, somebody has to be working the camera and all that kind of stuff. Or are you trying to like kind of do your own things? I mean, how are you guys finding working together? Because that adds a whole other element to the relationship. To me, it can be, I've had experiences where it's been stressful and not that great. Other times it's been, fun.
So I think now is a great time to tell you that I actually met Daniel because he was my supervisor at work. And so we actually, our entire time together, we've worked together. There has never been there's only that period of 8 months before the travels that we ever didn't work on something together. Even when we were babysitting for families, we were going together. Like Daniel and I have always been glued at the hip. And the intention of starting Chase Your Adventure and all of this work stuff happened in tandem with us becoming, digital nomads. We didn't leave with like a remote job set up. We committed to figuring it out along the way. So we knew that we were going to work well together. I will say having our own business, especially since Daniel's already mentioned in the beginning, Chase Your Adventure was my baby. And in a lot of ways, I'm still the overprotective mama bear, and he needs to check me because I get like too excited and too about my idea. But we've definitely grown together as business partners, especially I want to say over the last 6 months, we are definitely a lot more of a team.
Yeah. I would like to say for the record, when we met, I didn't know that she worked there.
It's okay, man. We're not going to get you in trouble.
But I do think that working on the road and working on Chase for Adventure is still violently different than working a 9 to 5 together. Because like she said, we work together our entire relationship.
It's
We
not the same
even
as being
ended up-
entrepreneurs together, I would say.
Yeah, no.
There's a lot
it's
more
not.
different stresses that come into play.
And there are different ways that you have to handle it. You can't just rely on a set of rules and guidelines that you've been provided and then bring an issue to your supervisor and after you've already tried to talk it out and you can't work it out. Whereas here you have to sit down and
I have to look at him and tell him this is not okay. And learning how to communicate with that, right? Because there's like spousal grievances that you can communicate where it's like, hey babe, could you pretty please put away the dishes? Whereas this is like, Daniel, I really needed that video like 3 days ago. Where is it?
And I'm like, Annette, have you sent that email yet? It was supposed to be out yesterday.
Right.
Right.
And this is where it can get tricky, I think.
Right.
You can say all you want that you have your business hat on, you not take it personal, but you're still in a relationship together. So sometimes it's hard to be like, sweetie, can you check the SEO box and see if you put the keyword in honey cakes?
Yes. And then that's the thing. Also, when you're like a digital nomad and you're living with your spouse, like we have no time apart. It's not like I'm going to an office and then complaining to him about the email later. No, if I complain about the email now, I still have to see his face for the next 3 weeks until, he decides
Right.
to go on a trip on his own,
Yeah, it's just an interesting, we can't come to any resolution in this conversation. I think it's just sharing with people like some of the dynamics involved, right? Like some things to think about or consider if you're thinking about going to business with a spouse or a partner or even a friend that you're traveling with or whatever. I mean, a lot of like, you might think, oh, we're going to, I found that setting some boundaries for yourself or with the other person is, even if you're just working by yourself, is pretty important. Like, hey, I want to go out and sit like at this, in this beautiful bay in Greece, whatever, on some Greek island and have this meal and be in the moment and enjoy it. I don't want to talk about, the 14 ideas I have for the videos right now.
Yes.
It's important.
Absolutely. And I want to say that that's something that's a boundary that we have had to establish on many occasions, more so me than Daniel, because I feel like Chase for Adventure is all I talk about. And the thing is, because Daniel's next to me all the time, he knows everything else that goes on or on my day. So all I do have to talk to him about is my ideas. So now we set boundaries. We have this time that we call hammock time, which is when we go downstairs where we have some hammocks near the river and snuggle our dogs. And during that time, Chase for Adventure cannot be brought up. And so we have some boundaries for that. And we also have Annette Day and Daniel Day. Daniel days, he just goes, rides a motorbike through Koh Chang and like gets lost somewhere. And Annette days, I just sit on the beach to myself. And that's
you guys
been really
have your
helpful.
own, you have your own time. Those are great rules. I mean, if anybody wants, even if you don't have a hammock near you, feel free to steal that idea, right? It's like, no, this is hammock time. That means like I can't be bothered with anything that has to do with this, the stresses of my business or work life if you're working a job or whatever. That's great. We'll get back to the interview in just a moment. Now, back to the show. What advice do you guys have to make things work financially on the road? Traveling the way that you do, I think a lot of people that are listening, are very independent traveler-minded folks, I guess. Going to be traveling in a similar way where you kind of, you're out in the world and you're figuring it out as you go. Whether you're doing that for a month or two or indefinitely like you guys are. What is your advice on this financially? Because it's not everybody's cup of tea to start something while they're traveling and hope it works and makes enough money. But then, how much should you have saved? How much should you count on the universe sort of conspiring to help you out and figure out situations versus like how much actual practical money should you have on the bank to live on the road in the way you guys are? So maybe the best place to start is kind of describe your sort of level of travel in terms of like the lifestyle and like the amenities that you need. Because I think that sort of sets the bar so people can understand, all right, well, they're living in this way. Like if you're sleeping like on the ground somewhere with no fan or no air conditioning, maybe you're paying like $2 a night or something, but other people might not want to travel that way. So just understanding how you guys travel and then talking about like some of the practicalities around making the financial stuff work. I'd love to hear some of your thoughts.
Right. So as far as our lifestyle, it definitely grew. It started in the straw huts that you were discussing a little earlier, when we did just save up 15,000, and we're just trying to make it work for as long as we possibly could. And
Did that mean
has
having a
evolved
monthly
as-
budget? Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but having the 15,000, did that mean having a monthly budget of X amount of dollars? And what was that?
So we actually track all of our expenses. Every time we pull out a wallet, it's getting recorded in a phone. And so
Using what app?
On
Trail Wallet? Or?
Trail Wallet.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
And so for us, I think on average between the two of us,
1,500.
we allot $1,500
for the
a
couple.
month for the couple.
For the couple.
But that also includes flights into country. It includes about 10 to 15 US dollars spent a night on accommodation, any food cost, transportation, all of it. Anytime we want a beer, and we don't go sparingly on fun adventures and excursions and going and having a beer on the beach or having a glass of wine with dinner. We do those things probably once a week, maybe twice a week.
Something that I think, though, that is really important to know is people need to figure out what area of the world that they want to start in. We knew that we wanted to make our money go super far. So where did we go? Southeast Asia. And we've been traveling Southeast Asia and other parts of Asia for 2 years now, because we've been able to live a much more comfortable lifestyle. $10 to $15 gets us a private room in Thailand that, has really nice internet. Maybe the place has a pool or it includes breakfast and it's in a good location of town. $15 in Europe doesn't get you anything. It gets you a shared room with 6 people in London for a night, maybe. And actually, I think we paid $30 for
Gets
that.
you a beer in Norway.
Oh my God.
That's
I
how
would
expensive
die.
it is.
A beer at the bar is usually between 10 and 15 bucks. Yeah.
Oh my
Oh my gosh, Jason.
Oh.
Can I know a little bit why? Why Norway?
Well, I met a Norwegian girl and married her, and now we have 2 kids, and I live here. So,
That's it. Well, it sounds like you won.
there are other benefits. I mean, I don't have to pay for health insurance, and, daycare subsidized. I have 2 kids. So, I mean, I've talked to some of my friends in the US, and like those 2 expenses alone for an entrepreneur, having to pay healthcare for a family of 4. And if you had to pay daycare, can be like $3,000 to $5,000 a month.
Right.
Yeah. You're just simply not encountering those expenses.
Right.
I order less beer at the bar. It's good.
Yeah.
It's good for my health. It's good for my health.
Listen, I agree. And I think I was listening to one of your other podcasts from when you first moved to Norway, and you were talking about like sacrifices you've had to make. And you're like, listen, you know what? So what? I don't have a car, but we have great public transportation in Norway. You adapt. At the end of the day, wherever you want to travel to, you're going to adapt. So as far as like giving people a hard, steadfast number that they should have in their bank account, I mean, personally, I can tell you that my threshold is I wouldn't leave with anything less than $5,000, which is really what it would cost me to get a ticket there. And if something really bad happens, to get a ticket back and be able to get myself together for a month while I figure things back out at home.
And I actually am on a different end of that. I would say if I were traveling solo, I would not leave with less than 10 and let maybe like 2 or 3 grand be my
Emergency
time to really
fund.
figure out what you're doing. Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Like, where are you getting your money?
Right. And again, going back to if people are trying to make this lifestyle sustainable for them, I mean, are you making money online right now? That's something to look at now, something to help your finances. If you can plan your remote job from the time that you're home, that's going to be a little bit easier to maintain when you're already traveling versus dealing with the stress. Because if you're sitting here going like, oh my God, I wonder where my next paycheck is going to come. It doesn't matter how beautiful the waterfall in front of you is. You're going to be too stressed out about the fact that you're not making money. Yeah. But in the same breath, we actually did a whole entire course on our website called Worker to Wonder, where we do nothing but talk to people about all of the ways that they can make money while traveling. And I'm talking about things that aren't entrepreneurial, even working holiday visas. This is something that, anyone from, especially, United States and Canada, which I'm assuming most of your listeners are from, they're able to just plop into Australia, pay $400, and then they could be making up to $1,000 a week working on a farm picking fruit. Now, is it really hard work? It's hard labor. Yeah, you're outside for hours and hours a day, but will it pay your bills and fund 3 months of travel? Sure.
That does have an age restriction, that particular example, I think.
Right.
I think it's for under, I can't remember
30.
if it's under 30, yeah. But a good example nonetheless, yeah, for a certain person. But yeah, everybody's got to take their own situation into account, of course.
Absolutely. And that's not the only way to make money either. There are people who, for the people who have a degree, and one of my side jobs is I'm a VIP kid teacher. And I actually had to do that again when coronavirus hit. We were working in the travel industry, and for 3 straight months, we had no income. Imagine, banking all of your eggs in the travel basket during the middle of a pandemic when the world shuts down. And so that was something that I was able to use. Yes, it requires a bachelor's degree, but there's plenty of other programs that don't require one, and you can pay for a TEFL. And another thing too, for people who want to teach abroad and maybe not do a working holiday visa, China and South Korea are really awesome and viable options. They'll pay for your housing. They'll give you a really nice stipend. They'll even sometimes pay for your return flights home. They'll give you a working visa. And this is in really cool cities like Shanghai. We were just in Shanghai right before the pandemic started, or actually right as the pandemic started. And there are some teachers that we met that were living a really good life, and that has no age restriction, and it doesn't require a degree either.
I like that you guys shared specific numbers too, like even though they were different numbers, whoever's listening to this, I mean, if you're thinking about doing something like this, it gives you something to work toward, and understanding, I think an emergency fund is a great idea. Maybe you split the difference, take the average, right? $75 between the two. And of course, like you said, and that depends on where you're traveling to. So you want to pick a region where it can go further for sure. Let's hear some travel spots that have been highlights for you guys. I would say I've been thinking about this recently. Like, what are some of the places you've been where you maybe didn't expect much, but then you realized you were like totally surprised and delighted by what the place had to offer? Like, it kind of exceeded your expectations.
I have one. Taipei, Taiwan. I had zero expectations. I couldn't even tell you where Taiwan was on a map, and I'm going to probably offend some people. I thought it was China. So when I had heard about Taiwan and thinking, oh my gosh, Taipei, there's food. That's all I knew. And then we get to Taipei, amazing people. The people were so lovely. Everyone was playing Pokemon Go, which I know sounds stupid, but it was really fun to watch. The food is in fact delicious. The metro system is not only cheap, but allows you to go through all parts of the city. It is impeccably clean. It almost feels like a Times Square mixed with like Bangkok street food, but it's Chinese and delicious. And people who are like dancing, like they're just so joyous, the Taiwanese people. They're literally breakdancing or doing like K-pop style dances in the middle of everywhere. There's like proper dance groups. They all look like BTS. I don't understand. So that was a place where I had no expectations, and I was like, wow, I want to move here. This place is awesome.
Sweet.
You?
Fair enough.
Do you have one, Daniel?
Yeah, so mine is actually Vietnam. Obviously, growing up as an American, we hear a lot about the war and a lot of the history, but I don't know, at least for me, before going to Vietnam, I just pictured it as all rural with like villages and dirt roads, and you do have a lot of that. But when we went to Vietnam, we lived in Hanoi, and Hanoi blew me away. Just because, I love motorcycles, and so driving in the second most populated city for motorbikes was a dream come true. It was a near miss of an accident every time you get on the bike, and it's the most exhilarating thing I've ever done.
I've never had to become so okay with death in my life. Jason, like, this is going to sound funny, but I legitimately thought that I was going to die any day. Like, imagine waking up and being just grateful, like, wow, I lived one more day. I wonder if the bus is going to hit me today.
Nobody hit me when I crossed the street because they all stopped like they were supposed to. Yeah.
Right. That's exactly it. Well, speaking of almost getting hit, that actually, my place that I had such low expectations for, but was blown away, was Vietnam, but specifically Ha Giang. It's a northern province area up in the northern mountains. And there's a loop that you can do where you spend 4 or 5 days on a motorcycle and you just drive through the mountains. And it was the most beautiful thing I've ever done, the most exhilarating. But when she said you almost get hit by a bus or a car, we came around the side of a mountain and our tire was on the edge of maybe a 300-meter drop off because a car just flew around the side, maybe going 90 kilometers an hour, slid, barely missed us. Oh my gosh. But anyway, sorry. My favorite place. Yeah, we digress. My favorite place that really I had no expectations going into was Vietnam. Blew me away.
Yeah. Any other travel destinations you guys want to share as places that you think might be interesting for people to check out?
Ooh.
Okay, so as far as destinations that India is something that I think a lot of people have divided feelings about. I was one of the people who I was so scared of going to India because of like the whole rape culture thing. And all those stereotypes that people tell you about before visiting India, you're going to have diarrhea for like 6 weeks. And we almost didn't go because I was so scared. And then I got there and everybody was so nice, given it's a different culture. But if you adapt to that culture, man, Indians will welcome you with open arms. And I would say that about anywhere in India. And we visited New Delhi, which we almost skipped for the same exact fears that I'm telling you about. And honestly, New Delhi was one of my favorite cities. And it's interesting, like the moment that you strip away all of the stereotypes and, you turn off the news for a second and you go and experience things for yourself, it's amazing what happens. And now India to me is my favorite country, if nothing else for the incredible people that I met there. And the food, is amazing and a bonus. Oh, also, side note, we got invited to a ridiculous, like multi-million-dollar wedding where like this famous Bollywood singer was playing. And we just got invited by like one of our Instagram followers. And we got there and we are thinking, okay, we're going to sleep on this guy's couch. He paid for us to stay at the Jai Mahal Palace, which is literally older than the United States. I still look at those videos going like, that was not real life. I actually just died for a weekend, went to heaven, and then came back. I was in a coma.
That sounds like an amazing experience. Yeah, it's those kind of experiences. I mean, if you don't put yourself out there in the way you guys are, or even just traveling around, like you don't get a chance to meet people like that and have those experiences and those meaningful cultural exchanges on the ground. It's a beautiful thing. Now I'm going to have Indian food for lunch because that sounds really good.
That's actually
Well, thanks for your time. I mean, I hope you guys keep enjoying your life out on the road, and congratulations on everything that you've done and getting through the tough times and just everything you've gotten going and as you've been on the road, which is no small thing to get a business going and all that kind of stuff. So congrats. Yeah, thanks for coming on the show.
Of course, Jason. Thank you so much for having us.
Take care. There you have it. Thank you to Annette and Daniel Fortner from Chase for Adventure for sharing their story. A big takeaway for me, travel didn't solve their problems, but essentially gave them space to kind of work through them. And, you could argue on one hand that, well, if you're having financial problems, maybe that adds a layer of stress. There are a lot of different ways to approach this and think about this, and I'm not going to argue against that, but I am just going to merely point out the idea of giving yourself space to kind of work through things. And that is something that, although very obvious, can be very difficult, I think, in everyday life, as so much battles for our attention. People, apps, all the things that we're bombarded with. It actually takes some intention and a little bit of work and a mindset, I think, to carve out that space and to say, you know what? I need 10 hours this week over 3 days, say, where I'm just going to block out my calendar and I'm not going to have anything planned. I'm just going to go out. I'm going to start my morning with a cup of coffee and a notepad. And I'm just going to think about what I want out of my life over the next year or 6 months or even 3 months or, whatever kind of thing that always slips to the background because of busyness, right? But are actually the things that should be the first things you do. I think that's kind of an easy way to identify what that might be for you. How I do it for myself. It's that thing that keeps nagging you in the back of your head where you're like, I gotta take time for this. I gotta take time for this. And then, or life gets in the way and you're just busy. It's like, no, let's actually carve out the time. And although a trip, like a long-term adventure, spending a summer abroad or a year traveling, definitely gives you that space to kind of work through things. You can also create that at home for yourself. So I just thought that was pointing out. Again, I know these are things you've already done for yourself, but I bring these things up because you never know when this is hitting somebody's ears, right? And maybe it's been a while since you've done that for yourself, or maybe you've been meaning to do it and you haven't gotten around to. And that's why I like to kind of wrap up an episode like this with one actionable takeaway, and that is to just create some space for yourself to either reinvent something, work through something, whatever you need it for. You know inherently, you know internally what you need the space for yourself. Now you just need to create it for yourself. And then once you have that framework and you have that sketched out from a practical standpoint, you know, in terms of like blocking out some hours on some days or a week or whatever you can do, whatever you can manage, now you can be intentional with how you're going to fill that in terms of not productivity, but just in terms of giving yourself space to think, to be, to, I don't know, sit with it, I guess. So anyway, just want to finish with that. I'll leave you with a quote to wrap this one up. This one from Leon Brown, who said, "The answers you seek never come when the mind is busy. They come when the mind is still." Thanks for listening, and I'll see you next time. Peace and love to you and yours. Cheers.
This podcast has been brought to you by ZeroToTravel.com. Ideas and advice to make your travel dreams a reality.